I think it's pretty remarkable what you see going on in the world in terms of just fraud and actors on a stage. Like, if you can't see that these people that are going through these things, like Sam Bankman-Friedman, who is responsible for the largest Ponzi scheme in history, the largest fraud in history, being championed by, the New York Times, and being applauded on stage for this gigantic fraud that he perpetrated. It's just, it boggles the mind, and you have to ask yourself, why is this happening? What's going on in our world? And I think it really boils down to, there are the people in power know that we live in a simulation, and they have kind of dictated how they want the world to go. They want to hold the keys to the simulation, and so they have to justify the outcome. What they want, they have to justify it somehow. And so they concoct these schemes, they create these players, these actors, to do things like the FTX debacle, which is going to be used as the cause Belli to crack down on crypto and to justify central bank digital currencies. These things are all part of a narrative, and I've long thought, like, who's writing the narrative? And I think it's no longer really pertinent to ask who, because in my mind, the person writing this narrative is God. And so I try to find out, what does God want us to figure out? What does he want us to see and to know about where we stand in human history? And how can we act on that knowledge? And I think really what God wants us to see is that the simulation can be altered. We have agency to change things. Like right now, kind of the doors to change are pretty much open, and they can be opened for good and for bad. And all we see right now going on are those doors being opened for the negative things, the bad things. Because it's really the people that have to initiate the good things, these good changes. And there's not a whole lot of good people that are speaking out these days. They do in their own way, but their voice is not allowed to be heard very loudly. And I think what we need is a large-scale experiment to do good, and just create that kind of an experiment and see what kind of support we get. And I know that support's going to be monumental. It's going to be huge. But we have to figure out the right channels of communication. We have to find the right ways to get the idea out to people. That's something I'm trying to figure out how to do, but it's difficult. YouTube is not going to be the place that really allows these kinds of ideas to be vocalized. And so we need a different way of communicating and a different way of thinking about things. Let's change the simulation for the better. That's my opinion. And that's what we would like to do out here, is build a temple of life that kind of opens up the dialogue about how we can live a better future, how we can build better, build our communities better, build our, subdivisions better, build our healthcare system better. I believe that God created in us a magnificent technology, unfathomably complex. Like, we've been unknowingly corrupting his source code when he made us by, chemicals and the ways that we eat and live. And so we need to get back to the source code. We need to return back to the intended way that we should live, which is more tribal, much more tribal. We live in a global village, and I have direct experience how small our world can be because I've traveled around it so much, and lived in so many different places. The world, although there are so many people, it's not huge. It can be a playground if you so choose. Well, it used to be able to now. I mean, sure, now it's so expensive and, mobility is limited but we're gonna go in. We need to kind of contract into a much more tribalized type of society where, we rely on one another in our little area, and forget about what the federal government is doing, and forget about what all these people in the World Economic Forum are doing, because we want to escape their influence. We want to completely escape that mind virus that's kind of infecting the world. And if we build our own little bubble, our insulated bubble of spirituality and goodness, then we won't be affected by all the madness that goes on out there as much. And so that's kind of the idea, is building a post-fear world. What would that look like? And the only way we can figure out what that might look like is to just start doing experiments to see how it might work for us, as individuals, and us as our little community that we decide to build up around us. And so, I think it's really going to be an instructive experiment to see if any people relate, and how many people jump on board, because, if it's successful, I think it should be replicated all over the world. And that's the goal. And so I hope you guys can stick around for this journey, and share this journey. That's the most important thing. We got to share with one another. We got to talk to one another. This isolation is killing us. It's killing our minds and killing our productivity. So anyway, it's cold out, about to get to work, preparing for garlic. Y'all have a great week.